We find a nice little spot. Hey, welcome back to the food forest. Today we're going to go on a tour. We haven't done one of those in a while. Everyone loves seeing, how the property is developing over the course of the year. We're in the fall season now, so things are starting to end their life cycle. So right now it doesn't necessarily look the best because there's a lot of plants that are yellowing and, putting the energy down into the roots and putting their final seeds on. So things look kind of seedy and, yellowy. That's just the way that it looks in the fall in a food forest. We're gonna go show what that looks like, and then I'm gonna take you into the kitchen quick before we do that, and I'll show you some of the things that we're harvesting. One of the things that I did really well when I started the food forest was to work on a ton of diversity. So we have hundreds of different fruits, nuts, herbs, medicine, berries, you name it. It's in our food forest. If it can grow here, I probably have it. There's a couple things I'm still looking to add, bit of a collector. But one of the things that's really nice about that is that all throughout the season, we've harvested a ton of different berries. Right from early spring with haskcaps, right now blackberries are coming in, and sea buckthorn berries. So all year long, we've been harvesting fruit out of our food forest. So I'll show you what's going on right now, what we're pulling out of the food forest, not just for berries, but also things like medicinal teas that we're making. Okay, so here's some of the stuff that we're harvesting. I just pulled out a little smattering of everything. We've got sea buckthorn berries. These are the healthiest berry on the planet, and these are the wild variety. We've also, for the first year now, got Chuxaya sea buckthorn berries coming in, and these are so much better than the wild varieties. There's so much juice in each of these. Oh, they're so good. We've got our Concord grapes, and there's bags and bags and bags of these in there. I'll show you the other grapes that we have as well that we haven't started to harvest. We've got a bunch of different soups. So we've got tomato soup coming in. We've got mushroom and kale soup. We've got some apples coming in. And all of our apples look like this. So this is why I don't really plant a ton of apples. Most growers around here will actually spray their apples. And this is just what they look like when you grow without spraying apples up around here. We've got butternut soup. We've got blackberries coming in. These are the sea buckthorn leaves, so we pull them off. We put them on the trays in the dehydrator. You don't even need to turn the dehydrator on, but then you've got all this wonderful, super medicinal soup. And then we've got the normal annual things like peppers. We've got garlic. We've got cucumbers that we're going to turn into some pickles. We've got zucchini, of course, every single year. We've got tons of sugar snap peas and other things that are out there. So let's go take a look what's outside. Okay, so we always start out at the annual gardens, and my annual gardens are a little different than other people's annual gardens, as you can see. Tons of native wildflowers that I allow to grow in here as well. And we also have perennial things, like we've got some grapes right here growing in. So these are some of those Concord grapes. So we've got that growing, and we've got Rosie, who is eating my camera feet. And then we've got a bunch of raspberries that I've let come up. We've got this kale patch that still hasn't gone to seed or bolted or anything like that. It's actually just kicking away all summer long. So we've been harvesting out of this all year long. We have a couple right next to them that started growing at the same time that did bolt. So, this and this is the same age. So very curious. Underneath here, under there, we've got raspberry, we've got jewelweed. So this is a nice medicinal plant. If you get poison ivy, it can really help with removing the itch. So we let that grow wherever we can as well. So this is our old annual garden that has perennial elements in it. We've got sorrel down in there, and we've got cherries and lots of really good stuff. It looks wild and crazy. This is our raised beds that also look wild and crazy. That's just kind of how we do it here. But you can see we've got, you know, tons of production coming out of here. So we've got lots of peppers. We're just pulling peppers after peppers after peppers in this garden. Can't keep up with all the peppers. We've got sugar snap peas that we've been growing this whole entire time, and they're all growing up over top of this lamb's quarter that's now going to seed. So we were harvesting all of this. This was kind of the chicken bed, so all of that lamb's quarter was going to the chickens. Unfortunately, we did lose the chickens, which I did a video on that just recently, which you can check out. We've got the cucumbers here looking nice and ugly, but still just as delicious as ever. Another one down in there, a couple of them down in there, if you can see. You can see by, I'll throw the camera way up high, we grow really wild and crazy here, and it works. I mean, this is what works for us. Might not work for some people, but it works for us. I haven't been out here to collect any of the zucchini. So, I mean, look at the fertility in the bed. This is a large zucchini. This is going to be good for zucchini bread. Not really any good for fresh eating anymore. It's going to be very hard. Holy smokes. I haven't been out here for about a week or so, and that's what happens when you don't go out for a week. And it's because we've got zucchini in the kitchen, as you saw, and I'm sure we've got green ones in here as well. And we do a nice big fat green guy in there. We've got carrots that are doing very well. More peppers everywhere. So tons and tons and tons of peppers growing. Just so much food here. And then we've got some squash. So lots of squash. Some squash inside there. Lots of squash. Some butternut squash. So these ones here, you basically will just leave until the whole plant dies. You can basically just come and pick these up in the fall. You don't have to do anything with them. Just let them grow, let them do their thing. Ideally, you can kind of get them off the ground, but these will just basically sit there, let the whole plant die and rot, and then come pick them up after. So that's basically the annual garden bed. We've got some tomatoes hidden in there. We've got some potatoes that I'm growing straight out of horse manure. So we'll dig some of these up. And we've also got some potatoes growing back in here, straight in my, where I'm basically inoculating and charging up my biochar. So we put potatoes in there this year and they're doing fantastic. All right, so this here is the chicken area, and we are still pulling raspberries out of this whole entire area, this whole guild. And this is really nice to do raspberries on, you know, a 360-degree circle around this guild. So right north side to the south side here. And that way you get this really blended out production cycle where the south ones will produce first and then the northern side ones will produce much later, and then you kind of spread that out. We've got more grapes. I actually don't know what variety these are. And these ones were mostly going to the chickens, but we will harvest some. You can see there's tons of damage on the leaves from Japanese beetles. That's just kind of what goes on here. We have so many of them. But these grapes are just absolutely fantastic this year. So sweet. Here's the eerily quiet chicken area. And I actually just want to shout out and say thank you to all the people who went and email transferred me donations for buying more chickens. They wanted to make sure that we didn't give up. Trust me, we will never ever give up, and we will always have chickens. I actually miss them so much. My food cycle feels, you know, incomplete and inadequate right now, so I definitely want to get some more chickens. This is an English Carpathian walnut that we're growing in this kiwi and raspberry guild on the south side. And then now we come to the Jerusalem artichoke swale. So let's do something fun and actually pull some of these out and just see what we have. So we'll just pull some of these out. So we've got tubers starting to come. So that's exciting. So we have so many of them that we basically can just pull them out and then throw them down as a chop and drop, to things like hazelnuts that are in here as well. You can see I stomp down and crack a lot of this stuff down just as a soil builder and mulch, and then we can always dig up the actual Jerusalem artichoke tubers later on if we so choose. But these things get pretty big. You know, that's probably 12 feet tall, some of those flowers. Okay, let's go around the side here. Okay, so now we've got the beehives behind us, and we've got our swales here. So Jerusalem artichoke swale and the hazelnut swale on this side, and then another hazelnut on the downside of the swale, which is called the interswale region, between this and then a successive swale further down. These swale systems really hold the water. So we've had a lot of rain actually lately, and it's been fairly cool. And these swale systems just suck all that water up and hold it, and really extend how long you have moist soil for plants to grow. So we've got tons of hazelnut fruit set. This is just such a healthy oil as well, growing, no effort anymore, just kicking away on the swale, happy as ever. This is our brand new Aussie Shepherd, Rosie. So we needed a friend for Lucy. Lucy's really high energy and a little too much for the other friends. So she's gonna be a nice little food forest friend. And she's already such a sweet girl. Like, look at that. She's just so nice. And she follows me around like my little shadow. So it's really, really cute. Okay, so here's the back side of the swale. We'll pop up to the pond. Gets a little loud back here. I did plant out some gummy berries here, and they're doing pretty well. We've got roses in this little guild here, and we're sheet mulching around. It looks kind of ugly with all that trellis, so we're trying to fill in the space. Here's the pond. So I haven't really done anything with the pond since the pond guy visited. We'll have a video coming out later on that. It'll probably come after this one, maybe even delayed by a month or so. One thing we've been doing, these are the Chaskaya sea buckthorn that we've been harvesting. So you can see I actually missed a couple up in there. So these are the plants here that I've been harvesting for berries and for tea. And these things were really loaded up. So this year, fantastic production from these ones right at the outlet of the stream, so they can kind of get over and wick some of this water up and take whatever they need. And they're on this little island. You can see that we let all of the goldenrod grow that wants to grow. A lot of people will say, oh, it looks so weedy because it looks like a bunch of ragweed here. This is absolutely not ragweed. This is one of the most beneficial plants that you can plant for nature in terms of herbaceous layer plants. So make sure you learn how to identify goldenrod versus ragweed and leave up the goldenrod. So the fish are still doing great. They're happy. I think they're slowly going down in numbers. I think that mink that got the chickens are slowly getting some of the fish. And while that is a little upsetting, that's just the cycle of life. That mink is just trying to survive like we are. So I'm not the type to kind of try and trap them. I think that's one of the problems that humanity has done in the last little while, and it's gotten us into a lot of problems with destabilizing ecosystems by removing predators. So it kind of sucks, but I would rather try to find ways to grow in harmony with nature. That includes the predators that eat things like my fish and my chickens. So, you know, some people might call that naive. To me, it's part of my ethics of growing in a food forest ecosystem that isn't sprayed by anything. It's just something that I refuse to relent on. I will always try to live this way. So here's some apples. Tons and tons of apples on our apple trees this year. Many of them damaged. We got some blister and scab on some of these. We've got codling moths that get into some of them. That one there looks like it's got codling moth popping up in the bottom of it, but that's just life. Sometimes life needs food also. It's not just us. So here's the main food forest strip, the one that I started when I first started my permaculture journey. You can see that, the yarrow's gone to seed and it's turning brown. We've got a lot of the comfrey that I let go straight end of life cycle because we've got lots of insects that, need to eat these things. So we really cater towards living in harmony like that with the wild world. So things are kind of finishing up. A lot of fruit is yielded and harvested already, and we get those nice butterflies flying by when we let some of the wild plants grow. I will take the mower into here because this actually here is ragweed. So this is ragweed. So that we don't really want, so we'll mow over top of that. Raspberry patch and comfrey coming in here. This is strawberries and haskcaps, which are done producing for the year. And and then we turn around, we've got a couple apples, and we've got some cherries in here. We've got some autumn olives. We've got some currants down in there. We got Doggo, our little shadow, coming and eating the grass. And we've got all these peaches. These peaches should produce next year, I think. Maybe the year after. So we've got a bunch added in. One there, one here. We've got one here. And then we've got a couple more down there. 1, 2, and kind of there. We've got some cherries coming in as well. We've got figs growing on the outside. This was left over through the winter time, so it survived. I don't really know if it will survive again. I might pot it up and bring it indoors. Pierre grows his in a greenhouse and swears by it, so we don't have a greenhouse. But we might pot them up and bring them inside. Now there's many ways down to the bottom. I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. We've got a big guild here. Actually, you know what I do want to show? We've got some service berries growing. So I do want to show actually some of the things. We've got heart nuts, some more baby heart nuts that we planted there. And we've got another one here. And those are doing really well, as well as the one in the middle of the lawn here, right at the edge of the screen there. That one's doing fantastic, just full sun exposure. And then we've got a wall of Jerusalem artichokes here. We've got some more sea buckthorn, and we've got carpets of raspberries, service berries, cherries, and then we've bagged our pears because we lost these last year. And actually I got a couple that aren't bagged. I can maybe pull one of them, see how it tastes. Oh no, it's not ready. So if it doesn't come off the tree easy, it's just not ready. So we'll just leave it, and hopefully we don't have a deer come in and take all of these again like happened last year. But these are super sweet. They're a little smaller, but man, the taste on some of these Asian pears are just so fantastic. Unfortunately, I don't know the variety of all of them. I only have a couple. And yeah, actually I think I lost all the tags. So this is what happens when you just plant. You plant so much and you just focus on planting. I wish I would have taken a little more time to save some of the tags from some of my trees. And then you can see that we put a little bird perch up there right next to the pears. So that's so that the birds can maybe eat the larva of the codling moth when it hatches from underneath the side of the leaves and try to get into the pears. Oh, and you can actually see Rosie's found an old wasp nest. So I did show a little short a while ago about this giant wasp nest in our dogwood here, and it actually fell down just maybe this week, because I was actually planning on going in and harvesting it and looking at it on the inside. We've got some wine cap mushrooms in here. Let's see if we can get at this wasp nest. Getting poked in the head by dogwood. Hey. So there's the wasp nest. There's just so much to show and not enough time. Every single tour could end up being 2 hours long. But this is a service berry, sea berry. You can see some of the berries are still here. And grape guild. These are the Concord grapes that I've been harvesting. And I think they're all gone. There's a little bit in there. So we'll come back and we'll harvest some of those. So man, when these things are ready, these Concords, they're so good. Skin's a little sour, so if you want to make really good juice with them, you don't want that sourness, you can just press them. So nice to get a little snack. Like, look, you don't need pesticides. These are perfect. You don't need pesticides for everything. Some of the grapes aren't good, don't eat those. Eat the other ones. Who needs to spray all your food with poison? They're perfect. The only thing I wish is I could give these to the dogs, because I really like growing things that offset my costs. So I like the idea of growing things that I can feed to the dogs as well. Dogs do need meat, right? They're not vegetarian. They are omnivores. So you can't just grow veggies for your dogs, but I do wish I could give these grapes because they produce so much food. So what's that in the store? $5? I don't even know, actually. I haven't bought grapes in forever. We've got bags and bags of grapes in our freezer right now, and there's still more sitting out on the vines. And then in the back too, we've got all those too. And we didn't plant that many grapes. I think I planted 10 grapevines, and way more than I could possibly ever need or want. Find a nice little spot. Okay, so this is the path down to the lower area. You can see we let lots of wilder stuff grow here because we're not really highly cultivating it. So you've got tons of goldenrod, super important plant, as we've already talked about a whole bunch of times. We've got staghorn sumac that I'm walking through here. It can look like tree of heaven, but it's not. It's actually staghorn sumac. You can make lemonade out of the berries. This is the blackberry guild, so this is where we're pulling our blackberries from. I did just harvest, so there's not going to be any black ones unless I missed a couple. Yeah, there's a couple that I missed. So we get these. Oh, I got lots of blackberries. You coming? Come on. So this lower swell area here is pretty much done production for the year, I think. The only thing that we would have on here left would be any kind of pears. Those are really late season, but some of these European pears haven't started producing yet, even though it is like 18 feet tall. It's just decided that it's not time yet for it to make any food, and the raspberry patch at the end is all done. So we'll pop down into the lower area and we'll go see what's going on down there, and we'll snack on some blackberries. Now the only thing I really wanted to check on down here, as we're letting this area go quite wild, is actually these pawpaws. Look how tall the pawpaws are getting there. That one is at least 20 feet tall now, maybe taller, and it is just really exploding in growth. And we've netted all the pawpaws, so I'll show you those. We'll see how big they're getting. And then here's another one. Just getting really big and beautiful. We've got another baby one that we planted in between the two to fill in the space. And then we've got these apples. So the apples are bare, which means that we're actually getting a ton of deer down here, because these things were loaded up with apples, and I do see some on the ground, but not a ton compared to how many were on this tree. So these are still good to eat. Some of them will have some pests in them, but there's nothing wrong with eating some of these. And Rosie can eat some of these as well. Like, look at these beautiful apples here. Okay, so here's some of the pawpaws. You can see one growing in the bag there. We've got this set here. And they're really starting to fill these bags out. We've got this here. Now it's been very, very wet and very dark, so not much sun is getting down into these lower areas. Despite the heat wave that we had recently, it has been super, super dark and cool lately. So I think that's all I needed to show you about the lower area here. Push through some of these, through some artichokes. And you can see I don't really mow down here that much. I do want habitat for snakes, because snakes eat a lot of the pests that will eat my other food, like moles and voles. So, you know, if I cut all the long grass and I don't leave any habitat anywhere for snakes, then I'm not going to have snakes that will handle some of my pests. And then here we are coming up to the food forest and pond at the top. So this is Wildflower Hill. You can see it is just doing fantastic. Goldenrod has really taken over a lot of the area, which I'm okay with. I do want lots of diversity down here, but goldenrod is such a valuable plant. I'm okay if it kind of does what goldenrod does. Here's the waterfalls, and I will check quickly the elderberries. So elderberries are starting to come in. Birds are probably picking at some of this, but they're not quite ready, all of them. So another couple months and we'll get, or maybe another couple weeks, and we'll get some more elderberries. But you can tell that is just the crazy year that we've had here. Usually we would have elderberries well before now. Probably a month we would have already been into elderberries. There you go. You want to go down there? That goes back up to the raspberry patch and the linden and blackberry bushes. This here is the food forest pond. That's the backyard where we had the chicken area, the grapes, and the raised garden beds. And then up this side, where Rosie just ran, we've got some more pawpaws. We've got peaches down here. We've got sea buckthorn. Got more peaches, more pawpaws. Lots of hostas. We've got fiddlehead ferns down in there. We've got mint. We've got Shasta daisies and dahlias and other flowers for nature as well. And then we're growing some salal in the background down in there that are just little baby sprouts. And that's it. Full circle. We're done. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you on the next one.